Welcome to the very second edition of the Sports Roundup. I'm your host, Brandon Glogau, and today we are joined by Michael Ramsey. Michael Ramsey is a former LIU Brooklyn soccer champion, but he's more than just that. He overcame many life and death situations, became a Division I soccer player and NEC champion, and here he is now. Michael, how you doing?
Doing well. It's nice to see you, Brandon.
Yeah, you too. So I talked about how you overcame life and death situations. Why don't you tell them what I'm talking about?
Sure. So, one that Brandon's mentioning or hinting at, when I was 15, a sophomore in high school, I had a really severe injury, kind of from a freak accident. I was running around with my friends at night, and I didn't see a high-waisted chain by a school, and so I was sprinting at full speed, and I ended up flipping over the chain, and then I hit my head on the curb. And so, not obviously understanding the significance of it at the point, but the next few minutes kind of where I was in and out of consciousness, and then I ended up waking up 8 days later. So to fill in what happened during that, I was rushed for emergency brain surgery that night. They found really bad epidural bleeds, and so they had to repair that. And then they placed me into an induced hypothermic coma. And then apparently the next day, they found a lot of mushrooming, bruising, a lot of worsening of damage. And so they had to go back in, and they had to extract more blood, and then repair that as well. And so then at that point, they ended up keeping about, I'd say maybe a good third, my entire like left lobe right here of my skull. They kept that off actually. And so then, like I said, then they introduced it into the hypothermic process of the coma. So they ended up cooling my body temperature down to like 91 degrees Fahrenheit, almost like I was a human, like cool or something like that, or human ice pack. It's like the ultimate ice bath after a game, right? Um, so yeah, so I was the doctors told me that, or at least sorry, they told my parents that I'm probably never going to walk again, probably never going to talk. I'm probably going to be paralyzed on the right side of my body, and that I won't be anything above mentally challenged probably for the rest of my life. And then I ended up somehow waking up on my own a day earlier than I was supposed to be woken up. And my mom always laughed, and she told me that she knew I was going to be fine because they were concerned that I was going to be paralyzed on my right side. But my mom had seen me during my coma a little bit before I woke up, maybe a day or so. I was moving my right foot looking for a soccer ball because when I was 15, I always had a soccer ball at my foot in the house, and I would kick it against everything, and it would drive my mom crazy. So then she knew that I think he's going to be okay, miraculously. And so yeah, I woke up and I had obviously no idea where I was. It's like, you think that, you have like these UFO experiences, and I'm like, oh my God. So, but yeah, so I was really fortunate to where I actually didn't have any limitations at the time. I was speaking fine. I was moving fine. Cognition was fine. Obviously, I was heavily medicated, so took a little bit to wear off. And they expected me to be in the hospital for about 16 to 18 months of recovery still. And I was actually discharged 2 weeks later. But at this point, as I mentioned, they kept the part of my skull that was off. So I had to go back in about 4 weeks later and have that lobe of my skull reattached. So it's supposed to be a super easy thing, no issues. And as a time reference, all of this had happened, like the whole coma and everything had happened actually during, it was Thanksgiving break, my sophomore year. And so then I was going to have the operation to have my skull reattached at that point. And that was just a few days after New Year's, actually, of 2012. And so that was successful. Everything was fine. Thought I was going to go back to school. Everything's great. And then I told my parents that night, I said, go home, get some sleep. I told my sister, relax. There's no reason for you guys to be here. I'm in the best hands. So seriously, I'm going to be fine. And so a few hours after they left, actually, I ended up complaining about having a headache. And no matter what strength or of medications that they gave me, my headache kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And they maxed me out on everything I could have, and it wasn't doing anything. And so I was telling them that like my head really hurts, and so they were looking at like some sort of combination of something that they can give me to help. And I remember kind of looking around, and I was starting to lose sight, and then I vomited all over myself in the bed, and I was blind in one of my eyes, and the entire right side of my body became paralyzed actually, and I was slurring all the words of all my speech, and so I was pretty lifeless at that point. So they rushed me down for a CT scan, and they found a massive hemorrhage, like a massive stroke the size of a large egg. That had blown actually right here, right through my speech center, and a little bit through my frontal cortex, and so like a lot of my cognition and decision making skills. Um, so I that was probably the hardest part of the whole thing, because expecting everybody had told you, well, obviously I wasn't participating in a coma. They were telling your parents that he's not going to be normal, he's not going to be fine, and then then I woke up and I didn't have any issues, and so it's almost like I had gotten away with it almost, it feels like. Um, but that moment when feeling lifeless like that, um, being paralyzed from half your body, and then feeling like there's nothing you can do, and you just feel completely helpless as you're getting dragged onto the CT scanner, and there's nothing you can do to make it go quicker. And so that was the hardest part, probably the hardest moment. And so yeah, like I said, they found the massive stroke, and so as they rushed me in for emergency brain surgery again, and and that's when I remembered, I thought I was going to die at that point. I thought that it was too much. Like I said, like I escaped death like already. Like there's no way I can do this again. Especially feeling paralyzed and you can hardly see because the blood was damaging everything around, and you couldn't talk. So I remember getting put onto the OR table, and so they're putting IVs into me and everything like that. They're getting me prepped, and I remember looking up at my nurses that were there for me actually at the CT scan, and I tried to smile and look at them and say like it's okay, like it's not your fault, like you did everything that you could. And then I so I thought that was it. Like there's no way that they're gonna save me here. Um, and so I was really confused when I woke up. Um, I don't know how many hours it was. I think it was sometime during the next morning. And I almost being under the anesthesia, and obviously then having brain damage from like having a stroke. Obviously, I had slight short-term memory loss at the point, which obviously regained in just a few hours. But I remember waking up, and then I was on a ventilator, and I saw my father and my a family friend of mine. They were sitting on chairs right next to my bed, and so they saw me like gonna sit up or whatever, and then I'm looking around because I thought that I had died at first, like I didn't think so. I was confused where I was, and so then I realized that I'm alive, and so because I realized that I had a ventilator in, so I was motioning to my dad, like give me like a pen and paper, and so I wrote down what happened, and so then he told me what happened, which obviously I ended up remembering myself not that long after. Um, and so I remember thinking like, okay. And I was thinking like, I'm actually okay. Like, I can't believe this. Um, but then a few hours later, I must have been unconscious when they took the ventilator out, because when they came in to talk to me, I didn't even know my own name. I was just gibberish coming out of my mouth. It's like I didn't know English. Um, and that was really hard. It was really hard. And so I was diagnosed with something called aphasia. And I was fortunate enough to where I didn't have the worst kind. It was just the kind where you can comprehend what everybody's saying to you, and you think that you are speaking back correctly to people, but the actual pathway, the neuron pathway, for you to produce speech, there's a disconnect with that. So you think that everything that you're saying is correct. You have the right tone, the right pitch, the right mannerisms for what you're saying, but you're just like, nothing makes sense that what you're saying at all. Um, so it was challenging. And then I'd look at objects, obviously, and then they say, like, Michael, what's this? And I'd say, and try to, I knew it's an iPhone, but like, it's almost like I couldn't remember how to say iPhone. So that was really challenging. But besides from that, despite being paralyzed in half my body and then went blind in one of my eyes and everything like that, that's the aphasia was the only issue that I had. So I didn't have any physical issues, cognitive or anything like that. I was extremely lucky. But during that operation, when they were repairing the hemorrhage, they had to take my skull off again, to let my brain swell, because it was going to be way too much pressure in my skull, and so that was going to cause issues. So fortunately, I was able to get my skull reattached again a week later in the hospital. So and then I was discharged, I think 3 days later. And despite all of this, despite all the damage, all the strokes, everything, I walked away with just a little bit of a speech issue. And I was really fortunate. So that's the story.
That's quite a story.
Yeah, it is.
How long after everything that happened, by the time you got out of the hospital and you were fully recovered, how long did it take for you to be able to start training again for soccer? Because this happened after soccer season. You said around Thanksgiving. So
Yeah, so believe it or not, I had a few concussions before. As a goalkeeper, I had a few concussions before this, obviously. And so I think this would have been counted by as my fourth concussion. And then a neurologist would count that as, okay, well, you're not going to play for 6 months now. You're out for 6 months. And my neurosurgeon agreed. He said, this didn't happen with soccer. You have no cognitive issues. You're fine. So believe it or not, all of this happened starting in November of 2011 and then kind of lasting through the second week of January. I went back to training June 1st, I believe.
and
Yeah, I was really lucky.
and with all that, how your body was good. There was no anything stopping you from training. You were able to be your regular player.
Yeah, I mean, what you do end up realizing is I didn't have any issues whatsoever. Like, obviously confidence is one of them. Like, you don't think, and you're very hesitant, when you're put through things like that, when you're at very vulnerable states, you're very worried that something else could happen. So of course I went back to training, but I wasn't actually in goal for I didn't have contact training until I think August, actually it was. So I had non-contact training for about 3 months. And then at that point, then I went back into full contact training, which was good. But it was a lot of a mental issue. Obviously, you go through something like that and have a terrifying experience with a brain injury. And as a goalkeeper, you're diving in, and there's feet kicking around, and you're, just want to make sure it doesn't hit you in the head again. So you kind of had to overcome that a little bit, to where you kind of had to just kind of convince myself, there's nothing else you can do. I'm not going to be here and I can either play and enjoy it, or I can stop and kind of be miserable. I have the ability to play. Let's get it on with. So it was good.
So now you're looking for colleges to play soccer. I'm sure all the coaches that the schools that you were looking at were aware of what you went through. So with that being said, how did that affect your recruiting process?
It actually, nobody really knew. I mean, obviously, a lot of people had known around Southern. I'm being from Southern California. A lot of people are all around Southern California had known, but I didn't want that to define me. I didn't want my injury to be a definition of who I was or my abilities. So I didn't really tell anybody else who had already known or found out. So I tried to just keep that separate because it didn't have anything to do with my my soccer abilities. So the only thing I guess that I missed was that it probably took me, even though I went back to new training in that June and then full contact in August, it probably took until that February, the following February, for me to fully kind of get back into it. Kind of like get some of the rust off, or have the confidence. So even though I was able to play, it was the mentality and kind of getting back into the swing of things that took a little bit longer. So with the recruiting process, I missed almost probably like a year's worth of recruiting. So that was a little challenging.
So now you get the opportunity. You're going to play Division I soccer at LIU Brooklyn. Very good soccer program there. But shortly before you got to LIU, you had that shoulder surgery, leading
Yep.
you to just adding it to the list of injuries.
I know.
Red shirt freshman year.
Yeah.
You couldn't really catch a break. What was going through your mind with that, and leading to going to TJ Kaseki, the head coach, to his office about deciding to redshirt that year.
It was mutual. Like, obviously I didn't feel ready. I had just been cleared. So I had shoulder surgery. I had a slap tear, a labrum tear. And I think I had that one in March of my senior year. And so obviously preseason coming up then for going to college in August, I recovered extremely well, and I got cleared by my orthopedic surgeon to go back to training, I think maybe 3 weeks before preseason started. And so I of course, very determined person. I was like, oh, I've got this, no worries. But then I hadn't picked up a ball in forever. And then, like, obviously I had a sore shoulder. So I was like, no, there's no way that this is gonna go well. So it was very mutual between me and TJ that I needed to get back in the swing of things again before I should start playing.
So now after redshirting your freshman year, you get your first career collegiate starting goal against Howard University. You finish with a 1-1 draw. After everything that you've been through personally, well, what did that mean? I know you would have rather gotten a win than a tie, but it's better than a loss, I guess you could say. And you got your first collegiate star. What was ever going through your mind?
Well, during that game, it was a good goal that they scored on me. It was a great goal, so I couldn't be too upset about that one. So so that was the first thing going through my mind. But yeah, I think it felt right. You kind of feel like finally there's nothing else really to deal with right now. You finally have overcome everything with having a brain injury, then you just had shoulder surgery, and then recovering, and then training every day. It felt very rewarding that all of the work that you had put in all those years was kind of put into that game, or at least all of the pent up energy and all the pent up emotions of what I was expecting to feel. So that was really kind of euphoric game for me, even though it was smoldering hot out and on the turf and everything. But no, I was more than happy to be there, and it was a good game. So yeah, like I said, I think it was just kind of a testament to everything that um, I'd been trying to get back at. So I think that it was a good moment.
Now let's fast forward senior year 2018. You guys become Northeast Conference champions, and that that was some team. I just remember reporting on the team with Siwanaka, the student newspaper at LIU, and just talk about what was it like being part of that team.
That was a really special year. That was a really that that year took a lot of effort from each of the players of the team, and not just performance wise, but individually. Every every player on that team grew individually during that season because we started off the season, I think, oh my God, we're like 0-9. Like I think we had lost like almost every game. And we had just had a horrible loss against St. Peter's. And we it was tough to swallow that one. And that one was tough to keep your head up high with that one. And we had a team meeting after that, just the players, and we kind of put aside anything that was going on between the team, anything that didn't have anything to do with soccer or anything. Is we need to everything needs to be focused on this season, or at least conference. We need to brush everything aside, and we need to be very focused. And so I remember having training after that for the first time, and that was probably the best training session we had had all season. Everybody was really um, pushing everybody. It got very physical, and that one really kind of lifted everybody up because everybody was kind of patting each other on the back after that one. Like no matter how rough it was getting out there, it was very. That one was a very. It was a great training session to kind of bounce back from that one, and from that moment forward in the season, everything kind of just clicked. The team, as a team, we were so in sync. The chemistry was unbelievable. It was just everything was it was exactly what everybody could hope. Like you know what I mean, like the perfect experience with being with a team or whatever, and you love all the guys that you're with, and it was a really special season, and I think that it took a lot of overcoming, obviously, with trying to keep your heads high with the losses that we had at the beginning, and yeah, lifting the trophy at the end. That was because all of us knew that it took a lot more than just playing better to win that trophy. You had to, we had to be better. We had to be better teammates, be better, better guys, and we had to, and it took a lot of effort, like I said, to win that, and it was emotional. It was tough. It was really stressful. Obviously, like having a target on your back and being undefeated the entire season because you're scared that if you lose, then what? Like you don't want to go downhill with that. So it was it was really special, and yeah, that's something obviously I'm never gonna forget. And you have a special bond with all of your guys after that, and everybody still talks about it.
Absolutely. Now let's fast forward to now. Talk about where you are now in your career.
Now, so I am a researcher at Columbia University. I work specifically at their Mortimer B. Zuckerman Mind Brain Behavior Institute. So that is Columbia's is very special. It's their entire interdisciplinary neuroscience research institute, ranging from different disciplines within neuroscience, maybe from more neurobiology to kind of computational or theoretical. Everybody kind of is in the same institute, and everybody works together, and it's really cool. So I my work is more specific on machine learning aspects and trying to look at different patterns or looking at correlations between um, different brain functions and then neuronal outputs, based on experiences that somebody has, whether are they real or are they not real, what does your brain know what reality really is, kind of thing. And so I work in more of a theoretical aspect, and I launch a little bit of, like I said, machine learning with that, and developing artificial intelligence with that as well. So it's really cool.
And have you spoken with your doctor who helped you overcome your injury? And what advice has he been giving you to based on where you are now?
Oh my, I am extremely close with my surgeon. Ever since, obviously, being his patient and being my physician, we have been extremely close personally. Um, and so he has, I've gone to him multiple times about advice about certain things, even when I was younger. Which is why I committed to LIU, because he said, that's funny, my mom went there. You have to go to New York. And so I said, all right, that's where I'm going. And so he's always kind of had the right answer regardless, even if I'm kind of feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants. But like I said, I told you earlier, Brandon, that I thought I wanted to be a surgeon, obviously, but then I realized that's not the life that I want. I want to give back, but I want to be able to have the life that I think that's people important to me deserve, and for me to be there and support them, and to have a great family and everything. So I wanted that. And so, yeah, in that time when I was applying to med school, and then I had interviews, but then I said, no, I can't do this or whatever. I don't want to do this. We had great talks about that, actually. And he talked about how he's an amazing pianist, actually. And he's almost like a concert pianist, like unbelievable. He actually studied at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, or the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And he was unbelievable, apparently, when he was younger. And so he had a similar choice in his life. He had to choose between almost going to Juilliard, being a concert pianist, or go to med school. I mean, oh God, tough choices, right? Juilliard or med school. Oh my God. But yeah, so I had to, like I said, kind of understand what my passion was, and what I want to get the most out of it, and I want to give to the community and to the world the most that I possibly can. And yeah, and so I thought that research was the best place for me to do, and more into innovation and technology. So, and he's been extremely supportive. So I have a lot to thank him for.
Nah, I know you have a busy schedule. What you're doing is not easy, but it's great work. Talk about giving back. Have you ever thought about being like a mentor for whether it's a college student athlete, a high school student athlete who is maybe going through tough times with injury, and trying to they really want to get their career going, play collegiate sports?
Funny thing is that I ended up meeting an individual who is the CEO for a nonprofit company called Brain in Southern California. And it's an entire nonprofit rehabilitation company for survivors of brain injuries who can't afford certain treatments or can't afford rehabilitation, or at least the ones that are going to get them where they need to be. And it's an amazing nonprofit company. And so I ended up kind of becoming a spokesperson for them. And whenever I'm in California, actually, when I visit my parents or anything, or my family, I always make sure that or at least I try to, I try as much as I can to be there and talk to all the survivors, because a lot of them are right in the middle of where I was, or worse. And it's really nice to be able to the blessings that I've been given from my experience and my incidents. It's nice to give them hope that, you can be like this, or you can just at least don't automatically just give up. Like don't ever give up, right? Because after you have an incident like this, you end up realizing that nobody really has expectations on you anyway. And so you shouldn't put any on yours. So that's what I was able to do after that. I just didn't put limits on myself and see where it would take me. And it took me to exactly where I needed to be. And I try to, like I said, I try to share that with others as much as I can. And I was just talking a few months ago to a college student who went through something similar as well. So it's really nice to be able to guide them, not just because they're worried, or obviously, or they're unsure, or they're scared. It's very comforting for their families as well, and their parents, who obviously, nobody really knows what you're supposed to do after that, or who to talk to, what rehab do you need, what treatments do you need, what's something to worry about, what you should plan for, anything like that. So it's really nice to kind of be able to guide not just that person going through these issues, but to be there for their family as well, and kind of reassure them. So that's really, I really hold that dear, and I really appreciate doing that.
Michael, that was a great story on everything you talked about. You really overcame so much adversity, and you really could be a true inspiration for a lot of people. And I wish you continued success on your new career and what you're doing. And I really appreciate the time and you talking to me.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Thank you for inviting me, and I wish you nothing but success with yours as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the second episode of the Sports Roundup. I'm your host, Brandon Glogau. This is Michael Ramsey, and we'll see you at the next time.